during these issues that we seek the decision or opinion of the Commission on Higher Education. We ask them and verify from them to help us identify whether a certain degree program taken by an individual is considered as a natural science and engineering program. Actually, the Science Education Institute have come up with a list of the undergrad programs that may be considered as natural science and engineering course. And if one does not fall among those listed natural science programs, may problema na. But nevertheless, this is in the case of our undergrad program. Even if we have taken a non-science program from college, but we were given the opportunity to finish a masteral or PhD in science program, that will suffice the requirement. Let us clarify that. Even if our undergrad program is not considered a natural science or engineering course, for as long as we have a masteral program and PhD in natural science or science program, then that will suffice the requirement. Okay? Then, the third rule, for one to be considered as an SMT worker, we have to have at least one, a function which amounts to what? Devoting at least 50% of our time working under science and technology activities. That's one. So, assuming that one has that qualification of being a graduate of an STII or engineering program, the second requirement will apply. Are you doing something along those that we consider science and technology activities? And if we do, then how much time do we devote to science and technology? At least it has to be about 50% of our time. How do we do that? In DOST, we ask you to submit all the requirements. And if we have a doubt, specifically from the screening committee, the technical working group, we conduct ocular visitations. We visit the applicant and try to determine whether indeed the applicant is doing STII, science and technology activity. And in order for us to be sure that at least 50% of the time is being devoted to STII, we require this participant to submit what? Their IPCR. And check from the IPCR whether indeed the applicant is doing an STI and that the amount he devotes or she devotes to STI is at least 50% or more of her service. Yung po ginagawa natin. Hindi naman basta-basta i-claim na I'm doing more than 60% or 70% of my time is allocated to STI. No. We have to verify that. We're telling you this even if we will no longer be involved in certifying your respective applicants. It will be the job of your respective head of agency. But just to let you know that these are the things that we have to be sure. We have to emphasize these intricacies of the requirement so that your head of agency, your agency, will likewise be observing these things in order to ensure that we implement the law in accordance to its intent. Besides, this will be one of those that we're going to emphasize in the guidelines. Then the classification of science and technology activities is the bigger question. Now we know who are the beneficiaries of science and technology privileges under 8439. Alam na natin ngayon. Now what do we consider STI? That is the next question. Then we have the following. When we are involved, STA can be considered one as research and development programs or activities. Then scientific and technological services. Then the third classification is scientific and technical education and training. How many are from the academic SUCs? Please raise your hands. You seem to compose the bigger part of the group. Very good. Now, research and development. What do we consider as R&D? For the SUCs, we don't need to explain this to you because this is already your breakfast menu. Alam niyo na what is an R&D. But anything that leads to system systematic and creative work in the physical, natural, mathematical, and applied sciences, which aims to produce a knowledge or utilization of the same knowledge in the different field, can be considered as research and development. Number 1A, we have to come up with what? Innovations and technologies through research. Yes, number 1. Anything along that line that aims to come up with the development of an innovation can be considered as a research and development program or activity. Conduct of research and many other forms of science and technology activities which may lead towards an innovation, utilization of an innovation or technology. The key word is discovery, improvement, enhancement of a process or a program. Then the second classification, we have scientific and technological services. Who are these or what are these services? Normally, these are activities in support of research and development programs. It is not directly a conduct of R&D activity, but anything we do in support of R&D. Like what? Dissemination of information. In the example, you will see the library, information, and museum services. Librarians never engage themselves into the conduct of actual R&D, but because they are librarians, they are tasked to what? Disseminate the utilization of R&D outputs. Henceforth, one way or another, they are involved in science and technology activities. By doing so, they are therefore a beneficiary. They are doing STII. Museum services. Yung mga curators ng museum, what do? They are not actually in R&D. But because they are helping in the dissemination of information, all those technologies and probably histories that are stuck in the museum, which aid one to become more eligible about science and technology, they may be considered as services in support of R&D, and they are likewise considered as STI. The number 1 function, their role is being classified as STI. Hydrological surveys. Sino rin din taga-MGB? Diyan pinakamaraming tanong yan. During the past 3 legs ng aming consultation, palagi pagdating to sa mga survey na yan, we are doing STI, but our application is being denied. I'm sure that will be another question that we'll be raised today. And we will be providing you some info. And I suppose this will be the last time that you're going to raise that issue. Because once we have issued the guidelines, then it is your head of agency who will be accountable. We will no longer be responsible towards that certification, therefore we cannot be held accountable anymore. So whenever your head of agency certifies that you are entitled to receive the benefits of 8439, the accountability rests in the office of your head of agency. It will no longer be us. In other words, it will be at his or at her own risk. Of course, we have the guidelines, but whether they implement the guidelines or not, it depends on the observation of the Commission on Audit. That's correct. Okay, so, information and communication technology. Anyone from the ICT? Wala. Oh, good. Seismological observations, compilation of routine statistics, see? Testing, precision measurements, calibration. All of these are STA, or science and technology activities. So they are not directly involved in research and development programs, but in one way or another, as I said, they are involved in science and technology because they are disseminating information or helping an innovation get diffused into the target beneficiaries. Communities, group of people, farmers, and others. Kaya their work is considered STA under that premise. Now, scientific and technical education and training. Oh, alam na natin yan. Anyone who is involved in the academic instruction. Good. Which aims to what? Produce people considered under higher education and training leading to a university degree, postgraduate and further training. organized lifelong training for scientists and engineers. If our university, our college is directly involved in the production of manpower whose expertise fall under this category, such as engineering, science, and many other programs considered as SNT activity, they are direct beneficiaries and are qualified to become recipients of the benefits of RA-8439. We've been telling this since the beginning to our SUC. Our wonder is that only few SUCs are participating in 8439. Is there any SUC here whose participation is yet to start in 8439? Wala? Are you sure? Okay. Then, the rights and privileges of S&T personnel. 1. Allowances and monetary benefits. This seems to be the more important portion of the discussion. Okay? I know that. And we can identify the following benefits. 1. Honorarium. 2nd, share royalties. 3rd, hazard allowance. We have subsistence allowance. We have laundry allowance, housing and quarter allowance, longevity pay, and medical examination. Sige, say natin. Honorarium. Well, the general rule of the government, specifically the one governed by Civil Service Commission, as regards payment of honorarium. What is that? That the honorarium should not be what? Should be used to pay services of government workers who are rendering services beyond their normal government work of at least how many hours a day? 8 hours a day. When we are tasked to do work outside of the normal government hour, then we are supposed to be paid through honorarium. And that payment should what? Not exceed 25% of our monthly pay or annual pay. That's the general rule. And actually, that is in accordance with the implementation of Section 7 of Republic Act 8439. Until this was partially modified by DBM DOST Joint Circular Number 1 Series of 2013. Meron ng partial modification. Later on, we will be discussing that. So, honorarium is indeed one of the commonly availed benefits from government service, and at times the most commonly abused benefit as well, because because of the description that 1, it should be over and above your government work. Oftentimes, a lot of misinterpretations are happening in this portion of the law. What do we consider as over and above our government work? Yun ang pinaka-delikado doon. We will give you some ideas later on when we go into the question and answer portion. So, honorarium, the Joint Circular provides the rules on the grant of honorarium for assignments in special project. Special project. Specifically, the one that is being funded by our grant in aid program from the DOST. Raise your hands, those who are involved into a research and development programs being funded by DOST, GIA. What school? UP? RTM? SLSU? NFAFD? Yeah, good. You know, you're very familiar with that. When we are being assigned as what? Project leaders or project support service provider, whatever. We are entitled to honorarium under the GIA rules. Then, these are the activities that may be considered for the granting of honorarium. 1. High technology solutions in the event of national emergencies, national security threats, public safety threats, everything that would require immediate and emergency actions necessary in order to curb, avoid, prevent prevalence of what? Diseases and many other things that affect human life. ASF from the DA. Coronavirus from DOH. When we are tasked by the national administration or by the national government to do something in order to curb, stop, prevent, avoid all these national emergencies that may soon result to a disaster are activities that may be considered as what? Activities that would require anyone performing that job to be paid with additional remuneration through honorarium. Collaborative undertakings between and among agencies of the national and local government for the improvement of critical and priority public services. Third, project assigned on ad hoc basis by the Office of the President. Collaborative undertaking between DOST and private sector. Membership in technical panel and steering committees and so forth and so on. These are some of those activities that one may qualify to receive an honorarium or extra pay. Now, under honorarium, we set the honorarium rates for assignment in special projects. Set the cap for the grant of honorarium, which should not exceed 25%. I was already discussing this. That more than 25% of the employee's annual basic salary. And this is in accordance to Section 44, Paragraph E of Republic Act 10352 and other subsequent issues under the GAA. Pero under the new rule, this will be discussed in the amendment later on, there is a change. And what does change is? It involves payment of honoraria exceeding 25% of our annual basic pay, subject to certain conditions. This early would like to tell you that the group that the LLO headed by Lita and us did our best to work in Congress, to convince Congress, the Senate more specifically, to remove that salary cap of granting honorarium, which should be more than 25%, in order to make the rules of the game fair for everyone in the field of research and development. Meaning, we should be comparable to the benefits being received by other people funded by programs coming abroad, or those researchers or our counterparts from abroad who are working here, or even working in the respective countries and are receiving benefits paid an honorarium which is exceeding the 25% of their salaries. In the Philippines, there is this policy which restricts us to receive higher than 25. Nevertheless, Congress classified two major components of activities which may consider the payment of more than 25%. And that is what? The payment of programs funded externally, meaning fund coming from outside the purse of the national government. The Attorney General will be discussing that. Then, second benefit, for being a scientist, for being a researcher, for being a science and technology personnel, doing STI, share in royalties. Most likely, this particular benefit is being enjoyed by those who are directly under research, working under research and development. Probably you're very aware of Dr. Lucille Abad of the PNRI, who just discovered yung Carta. It's a kind of seaweed that is being irradiation program being done to this Carta seaweed, and the same is being converted into pesticide and fertilizer, which was already bought by a company who will commercially market this throughout the world. So you can imagine that activity, that particular discovery was patented in her name. And for every sale this time of that product would benefit her through royalties. And the rule of our Republic Act 10055 governing policies on technology transfer law allows the inventor to receive at least 40% from the royalty based on the revenues that may be generated out of the innovation or discovery. See? This is very unique in the case of scientists, researchers, and engineers. No other government official is being given this kind of privilege once we qualify to be one. Look, 60% of that will be going to the government. And this applies only on cases where the research and development program was funded by government. And in this case, oftentimes it is the GIA fund which is being utilized in the development of an output out of a research and development program of a person or individual or institution. So that's the basic concept. The share. Well, next is the hazard allowance. Who is receiving your hazard allowance? Raise your hand. Where do you work, sir? NFA. Is working NFA risky or hazardous?
I follow the research and laboratory. We handle chemicals and other test methods that incur some hazard performance testing.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. When someone is working in a laboratory and is being exposed to chemicals, hazardous environment ng classification on, which may what? Inflict injury or cause an alarm in the maintenance of our health and safety. Therefore, this environment can be considered hazardous. And for that, we are entitled to receive benefit from the government. Halimbawa na, you're working in a laboratory na magkaka-cancer ka after 10 years. So, ibigyan ka ng benefits ngayon. Oh, fair enough, di ba? Well, at least, pag sinabi mo, ay, nagtrabaho kasi ako sa cancer-causing environment, then the government will tell, at least binayaran naman kita ng hazard. So, fair lang, di ba? O, sinong gustong tumanggap ng hazard pay? Under that phenomenon. Sino? Ba't ayaw nyo na? Kala ko ba gustong-gusto nyo receive ng hazard pay? Well, hazard pay is, of course, it is a privilege. Huh? For those who are involved in hazardous undertaking. And what are these hazardous undertaking or workplaces? Then we are entitled to receive what? Additional pay that ranges from 10 to 30% of our monthly basic salary. This is quite big because 30% is almost 1/3 of our salary. That's even bigger than the honorarium. And besides, in honorarium, there are a lot of questions there. But under hazard pay, this is always unquestionable. What we need to come up with is to declare and certify that our working environment is hazardous. And what is already declared and classified as such, no more question. COA definitely will never question that. Babayaran ka na agad, depending on the determination of the hazard committee. That's why we would like to tell you that once the certification is already in your hands, or in the hands of your respective government agencies, there are two committees that should be installed or created. And what are these? The screening committee and the hazard committee. You have to have those two in it. Otherwise, your head of agency will have no one to help him or her to decide whether one is entitled or not to become a beneficiary of 8439. That's the screening committee. The other thing is to determine how much is our entitlement out of the environment where we are working. It could be from 10 to 30%. Of course, we will not yet touch this issue. We cannot provide you guidelines on this yet because this portion of amendment would require what? The imprimatur from the Department of Budget and Management and the Civil Service Commission. That's why this is not under Section 2. So we will not be touching first yet the guidelines as regards the payment of honorarium and hazard pay. Kailangan yan ng DBM. And it is not within our authority to just issue. Maybe later on we're going to amend Joint Circular. This one. Joint Circular number 1 series of 2013. This is the Bible, Republic Act 8439. So therefore, we are going to request the Department of Budget and Management and the Civil Service Commission to sit with us in order for us to come up with a more comprehensive and acceptable guideline as regards payment of benefits, which are honorarium and hazard pay, and even longevity pay. Babagoy na siguro natin kasi maraming contribution rin. In the Department of Science and Technology, we are perennially receiving AOM as regards payment of our hazard pay. Every year yun. Hindi naman nagsasawa yung aming legal division. Every year din gumagawa ng reply to the management, reply from the denial from the cluster, from COA cluster unit, up to the Supreme Court, file petition for review. Hindi kami nagsasawa doon. Bakit? We have our own interpretation. And I think the joint circular created by the DOST and the DBM